So who is to start the discussion and the topic? What is the most urgent topic? Philosophy or practice? Anapana. Now we kind of a little bit separate the topics, but finally we will bring them together. Any idea? So I will have to bring ideas myself. Yes, as usual.
Just a clarification on when you say differentiating thought.
Why don't we put on the light?
And non-differentiating thought.
Yes. Well, it is the thought means here vikalpa.
Conceptual
and
mind.
Vikalpa means something from the Sanskrit root klip, which means something you fabricate, something you put together.
And so is it that, so you said non-differentiating thought is what is used in shamatha practice?
Yes.
So is it that we are also fabricating, let's say, the nimitta, the image of the breath, and that's why it's said thought?
Well, it is not exactly fabricating, because if you are in samadhi, then there is no any much influence from the outer objects, only from the mind. And so you can understand that it is a mind fabricating, then it is not a dualistic.
Sorry, if the mind is fabricating?
Who is fabricating? Mind is fabricating.
Right.
Mind is putting things together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of course, the object of the nimitta of the breath also is kind of fabricated. But when you have meditation, you understand that it is a product of the mind. No?
Mm-hmm.
So, if you practice this eka samskara meditation, finally the realization is a realization of chittamatrata.
That everything is
so if it
mind
helps
only.
the realization of the chittamatrata, if it is a skillful means, it is a vikalpa, but it is not a vikalpa which is preventing the non-dualistic understanding. It is a vikalpa which can help the non-dualistic understanding. This samadhi on the object is very helpful. Without that, it's very difficult to understand how to drop the object.
So what does it exactly mean that differentiating thought and non-differentiating thought?
There is a verse in the Trimshika of Vasubandhu. Yena yena vikalpena yat yat vastu vikalpyate vikalpito eva asau svabhavato navidyate. Whatever you fabricate in your mind, vastu, whatever object you fabricate in your mind, it is just a fabrication. And what is fabricated does not exist in its own nature. But the mind exists in this tradition, but not as we see it. It is not dualistic. And when you are in samadhi, you understand that the object is the mental object. Beside the mind, nothing exists in samadhi.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah. Thank you.
Bhantaji, can you expand on the Ek Samskar meditation in this text?
It will be explained much in detail. Eka samskara means you kshana. Kshana is the shortest moment. According to the Visuddhimagga commentary, within a blink of the eye, you have, I forgot how many thousands of kshanas. It is
1/60th of a second, no? The amount of time it takes.
Lava is the next one. But lava is also very, very short. It is much shorter than the blinking of the eye. So in one blinking of the eye, there are many, many lavas, many, many kshanas, many, many muhurtas. They had Indian philosophy is so interesting because you have the measures of time and the measure which the kalpas and the smallest measures of time you can, which are beyond imagination. So the kshana is also so short that you have to be in samadhi to experience it. Normally you don't experience it in one moment, arising and passing away of mind. All these things happen. The differentiations, the unity, the arising, the passing away, the oneness and the variety. All this happens in one moment of mind. That is a mystery of the mind. That is a wonder of the mind. In the Avatamsaka philosophy, we don't go not into it. That is a philosophy of Samantabhadra. The 10 wonders happen at the same time. In these 10 wonders, in Eka Samskara, the principle and the phenomena, they merge together. And the phenomena also merge together. Everything merged together in this one mind. So this one mind actually, through understanding this one mind, you can penetrate the alaya vijnana. Alaya vijnana is what creates the impression that there is a real subject and the real object. The subject and object is our fantasy, is our fabrication. That's why it is called abhuta parikalpa. Yeah? In order to, when you understand it, then you will understand also the mind which moves is abhuta parikalpa, because that is a mind which makes the impression of the subject and the object as being separate. When the mind does not move, you don't have this impression. And when you understand it, on that mind that does not move, you can also practice dhyana. That is nirvikalpa.
This is about the meditation technique explained in the morning, and where after following the steps that were told, and finally the final step is to sublimate the breath and body into a state of pure mind or Buddha mind.
The body and the mind kind of merge together.
Yeah. So
in this state, then you can get a better understanding that of the citta matrata.
Yeah. So
that moves. There is a famous in the Huineng Sutra. The two monks are arguing if the wind is blowing or if the flag. If the wind is moving or if the flag is moving, and they cannot agree. So they ask Hoineng and he says, gentleman, your mind is moving.
So, perhaps in a discourse like this in our own Vedic or Hindu tradition, then this state would be called a state of Satya-Chit-Anand. Would it be right to call it?
But this Satya, it is also used in Buddhism, but it is not regarding Atman, it is regarding Paramatman.
Yeah.
Paramatman is Sat Chit Ananda, not Atman.
Yeah, Paramatma.
That comes, but in Buddhism it is just a skillful means to explain.
Yeah.
In reality, Atman is a concept which in Buddhism is not necessary. But Lankavatara Sutra explains that since the Indian tradition is so fond of Atman, so why not make a concession?
Well, I think
you make the Atman as a skillful means, but it is not Atman, it is Paramatman. It does not. Paramatman does not belong to anyone. So it cannot be like a Purusha separated from the world.
Yeah, Sat Chit Anand is also explained not just simply as infinite existence, consciousness, bliss.
Yeah, of course, there are many similarities, but the method is not quite the same.
Okay.
In Buddhism, normally we understand the Paramatma through understanding of impermanence and the suffering of impermanence and the selfless nature of impermanence. This is the base. Normally, you don't start meditating on the Atman, because Atman is something you can, so to say, you can at least intellectually you can grasp. Even so, it is neither this nor that. Still, it can become the base for the practice. But the base for the practice for Buddhists is the impermanence. You cannot jump over it. But of course there are similarities, no doubt. Finally, everybody wants the same thing, which is purity. But the means are different.
One question, when life ends and breathing ends, are there any elements which are in perpetual state of continuity, like mind or
mind has
such?
a continuity.
Mind
but
is
this continuity of the mind is created, we will learn in our discussion, the philosophical understanding, it is created by the karmic mind. And this karmic mind creates the illusion of duality. It is karmic mind creates this illusion of duality. When there is a karmic mind, karma vijnana, then there is avarjana vijnana. It is a vijnana which moves to the object. And when there is vijnana which moves to the object, there is a khyati vijnana, the vijnana which reveals the object. And that all happens in the mind. So how to realize it? The only way to realize it is to go back to the mind, pratyahara. The mind is real. It has to exist, but it is vigyapti matrata. It only manifests. It only manifests. The vigyapti matrata is another understanding for chitta matrata.
What is vigyapti matrata?
only manifestation. Yes, what we can see through the mind is only the manifestations of the mind. That is, we have explained in the text also. The manifestation of the mind has a characteristics, but the mind itself has no any characteristic you can grasp. That is a mystery of the mind. That mind is to be realized. Then these manifestations, they cease to be so real. So in this tradition there is no real difference between the dream and the reality we experience. All is just Vigyapti Matrata. Vigyapti Matrata is Chitta Matrata. The mind of the dream is what the Western psychology calls subconsciousness, but subconsciousness is just consciousness. It is not different from consciousness. This division is not in reality, it is just a psychological tool, but it does not exist in reality. They created it to understand the mind. Similarly, Vasubandhu says, one who holds to Chitta Matrata does not understand Chitta Matrata. It is only the means to understand the mind. And mind is one. There are not two minds. But the sixth mind, to understand the mind, become 7 minds, become 8 minds, some tradition 9 minds. It's all just skillful means. Similarly, you have 5 skandhas, not more, not less. It is also the skillful means to understand your realities. There can be also 6 skandhas. Why not the memory skandha? Why not some other important factors which decide how we experience the world? Similarly, you have so many cetasikas. But if you observe mind in a different way, you will have different classification of cetasikas in Sarvastivada, in Theravada, in Sautrantika. All the traditions we know have different qualifications. It does not mean that they are wrong. It only means that they observe the mind in a certain way. But the mind itself you cannot grasp. You can only grasp the vigyapti of the mind. Right? No one has any questions? Very good.
When I've heard teachers like Lingyo Rinpoche give meditation practice instructions, he says that his tradition is doing more subjective oriented, not object oriented.
Yeah, it is very reasonable.
And I just want to know how can one integrate a subject-oriented approach with the kind
now
of...
you are learning, so there has to be, in order that you see something, there has to be avarjana. Avarjana is subjective. When you practice non-dualistic meditation, you see avarjana, you see that which is moving towards the object, which moves the mind, because of karma. So you turn inside, right? So you observe this subjective, this avarjana citta decides how you understand the object. Avarjana, a very wonderful word. Avarjana in Pali. In Pali tradition maybe the author of our treatise also was influenced by the Pali tradition. It is not impossible. They have Pali and Sanskrit traditions. They had much more contacts than we are aware of. First, there is a bhavanga, right?
Venerable, I have a request. Whenever you use Pali or Sanskrit terms, can you also give us the English parallel? Because I get lost then, because I'm not familiar with.
Okay.
Sorry.
Well, you should become slowly familiar.
I will
you
try.
You are very, what do you say? Curious or in investigative mind. That is very good. Without investigative mind, we cannot get anywhere. Not many people have investigative mind. If I have learned something because I have asked questions, asking question is a wisdom. So the Buddha always generally teaches when he's asked question, or when there is a special occasion when the teaching makes impression. If the teaching does not make impression, the Buddha does not teach. So he knows exactly what teaching makes impression, what are the proper conditions, and he is always, when you read the scriptures, always he is happy for and thankful for the right question. What a wonderful thing. This is what we have to learn. So asking question is very important. Now your question is, what is bhavanga? The bhavanga means literally the cause of existence. The cause of existence in Buddhism is a continuity of the mind. When this continuity is interrupted, what is there? You cannot say it is existence, you cannot say it is non-existence. It is something you cannot grasp by this thinking mind. So, bhavanga, the cause of existence, is a continuity of the mind. Now, according to Buddhism, you are born because of this continuity. If there is not this continuity, you are not born. There has to be the semen of the father, the blood or egg of the mother, to more scientifically. And there has to be that which connects them together, and that is the mind. Where it comes from, that is a mystery, but it has to be there. The materia itself cannot produce mind. So computer cannot replace the mind, impossible. However they try with artificial intelligence or whatever, it can never replace the mind, impossible. Because the mind is not automatic. Mind has ability to choose. So, bhavanga means cause of existence. Cause of existence is due to this continuity of mind. Now you study Buddhism, the continuity of the mind is due to grasping. There has to be tanha, tanha pachaya upadana, upadana pachaya bhava. We all have learned dependent origination. We are familiar with it. We have thirst, therefore we have grasping. When we have grasping, we are bound to be born. This happens from life to life, but it happens also in every mental process. Every mental process there has to be this karmic consciousness, so that there is continuity. With this karmic consciousness, we are born. When we are born, it is called sandhi, connection. The egg and the semen, or egg, the blood and the semen come together. If there is not this factor, they don't come together. Then they grow into nama rupa, into 6 inner bases, 6 outer bases, and there is a touch. When there is a touch, there is sensation. We hold to the sensation, therefore we prepare our next birth. That is common to all. So, now, between the mental processes, when you do not think anything, when you don't pay attention to anything, the mind is still there. What mind? Bhavanga. Or alaya. The mind which dwells. Which dwells where? Dwells in the karma. The mind of an arahat is called non-dwelling mind, anoka. Oka means a house. The arahat has no house. The Buddha has no house. It comes in BPada also. So, he is free from rebirth. The mind has no abode. Our mind has abode, therefore it is alaya. Now, when we die, it is also the bhavanga leaves our body. That is called chuti. Chuti in Sanskrit, same. That is bye-bye. Where you go again depends on the karmic formations, which make the continuity. So whether you believe in antarabhava or not believe in antarabhava, it is some kind of an interstage. This interstage is just preta stage in Theravada, but in the northern Sanskrit tradition they believe in antarabhava. Then you again join according to your karmic consciousness with another form. So this bhavanga is in the beginning, bhavanga is in the middle, and bhavanga is in the end. And bhavanga is with what we are born again. Because our consciousness is dwelling in the world. That's why I have explained sunyam lokam avekhasu. See the world as emptiness, and the Lord of Death will not see you. It is the same. Now you want to practice the path of Bodhisattva, very difficult. You have to see the world as emptiness, therefore you don't suffer. But due to great compassion, you stay in the world. A very difficult task. But that's why the sutra explained to give rise to bodhicitta is much more difficult even than to become an arahat, to true bodhicitta. Very difficult. And what is a way? To see this, as Mingyur Rinpoche tried to explain, to see this that is a subjective factor which moves the mind. Objectively, the mind does not move. It is moved by the subjective aspect of the mind which comes from the karmic consciousness. So that makes sense, yes?
And what I meant to say was that also in his way of guiding, he says that the object of meditation is not as important as your awareness.
It is not quite correct. There can be awareness without an object, but there can be awareness also with an object. There is no contradiction. And that awareness with the object is in a way more conducive to understanding the mind than the awareness without the object. You can get stuck in this awareness, but you won't get stuck because you have awareness with an object, that it is coming from the mind itself. That is a non-dualistic approach. So it is partly correct, but not quite.
So Bhanteji, continuing on the topic of awareness or mindfulness, and this is with reference to the walking meditation that we did earlier today, where we took walking, the act of walking, as an object.
Yes.
So for a meditator who's aspiring to attain shamatha, is it advisable to switch objects and continue with sati, or is it advisable to continue sati with the same object, breath?
It is advisable to have non-dualistic approach. It is the most advisable. Who is dividing?
But that would again need effort to...
That is a big question. That is Zen. Who is dividing? Who is walking? Who is chanting Namo Amitabha? Who is meditating on the breath? You always have to give rise to the big doubt. That is Zen. There is a small doubt which is obstacle, but the big doubt is a method. This is Zen. Through this big doubt, you come to clarity. Here comes, as our friend has pointed out, many similarities with Vedanta. The Zen has many similarities with Vedanta. What the Bodhidharma taught in China is very similar to Vedanta, but it is not Vedanta. If it was Vedanta, you don't need to distinguish. So it is neither same nor different.
But Advaita has that practice wherein you say who is doing it. So you start with asking who is the one who's watching, who is the one who's walking, and all that.
Yes, always ask the question.
So are you implying that that big question should be resolved before attaining the jhanas?
Should be at the back of the mind.
Okay.
So when you're walking, you only walking. And when you only walk, the mind is empty. When the mind is empty, only then, when you are in samadhi, you can ask who is walking. Otherwise, who is walking? Venerable Ramadipa or Sharat. It does not make any sense.
So the mind has to be empty first before the question
Of
can be
course.
asked. Okay.
No,
And that is a mini jhana in itself.
The mind has to be empty, but you cannot make it empty. It is empty.
By nature it is, but...
If you make it empty, it is not empty.
But if I may, could I offer a perspective from a beginner point of view?
Yes.
My own experience is it's very helpful when the object is clear, as Bhante has shared. So when I'm practicing walking meditation and I'm finding a lot of discursivity, a lot of thinking, it is also helpful from time to time to use an anchor that is very clear. It's maybe sensation in the body, maybe the breath, or maybe the contact between the feet and the ground. This sensitivity to the sensation is then directly applicable back in the formal sitting practice to investigating the sensation of the breath. So it's not kind of detracting from the shamatha informal sitting in that regard, as a kind of a beginning phase. Would you say, but that's correct?
Yes, of course. You have to start somewhere. You cannot start from the very beginning. You cannot start with meditating without object. It is not possible. Therefore, wise Zen master nowadays, like the teacher I was connected with, Master Shenyan, he would first teach the meditation on the breath until the mind is very settled. Then use the Zen method. Who is chanting the Amitabha, or who is meditating on the breath, when everything else except the breath becomes empty of content. But if your mind is running here, running there, then it does not make any sense, right?
But this method you've just talked about from Master Shenyan, that's different from the method that is described in the Asanga's book.
It is different from the traditional methods, because nowadays we are not like Huineng. Huineng, he was working, he was collecting wood to sell in the market to feed his old mother. These are the old Confucian virtues. Chinese Buddhism is a mixture of Confucianism, Taoism and Buddhism. That is very important to understand. Very often people don't understand it, and many people think that it is not misunderstanding, it is not Buddhism. Same like Tibetan Buddhism is mixture with Bana, no? It's not no problem. Why? Why not? In the olden times, the Jainas, the Hindus and the Buddhists, they were not so separated as you believe normally. They lived together, they discussed together, and they were all friends, all one tradition, the Shramana tradition. They were good friends. That's why Buddha always addresses these heterodox teachers, friends. Avuso. They were all friends, not enemies. This is the different approach. Western religion was very exclusive, no matter whether Christianity or Islam or Jewish. Very, very exclusive. Either you with us or you don't count. But this never happened in India, never happened in China. They were good friends, Taoists, the Confucianists and the Buddhists. So when the missionaries came to China, some of them were very, very well versed in Chinese culture. These Jesuits, they were incredible. Best scholars in Buddhism were the Jesuits, practically until modern times. They were incredible people. They learned the Chinese culture, they learned Confucianism, they learned Taoism, they started translating, they learned Chinese perfectly, they had very good friends with the Chinese intellectuals. Now the Pope, they told the Pope that so many lakhs are now converting to Christianity. How wonderful. The Pope immediately sent the missionaries, especially Matteo Ricci, who was a very great intellectual, to see that what help they need, give some financial help and so on. So they visited these Chinese intellectuals. They come and worship Confucius, Lao Tzu and Buddha and Christ, and they have no problem. But these missionaries and they said to the Pope, but these are not the Christians, they worship also other. So he decided not to put any money more because they worship other idols, not only the cross and Jesus Christ and so on. So very exclusive mind, but it did not exist in India, did not exist in China. The society was very, very rigid, but the religion was very free. Europe society very rigid, religion very free, but due to science, the society opened. So religion had to open also, otherwise they would not open. Okay.
I'm sure everyone's dying to know what happened to Huineng on his wood gathering trip.
The Huineng, he overheard, just overheard as he was passing by the Buddhist temple. He just overheard Wu So Ju Er Shen Qi Xin. You should give rise to the mind without letting it dwell anywhere. We can hear it many thousands of times, we will not become Huineng. But he just overheard by passing, carrying the wood to the market, he just overheard it and his mind completely opened. And he saw that all this, the world is just emptiness. And he did not tell anyone that he is enlightened. Then when his mother died, then he went to the fifth patriarch, and the fifth patriarch saw his talent, so he passed there at night, late at night, when nobody would witness. He passed the rope to him and the ball and the transmission, because he knew his mind has opened. So this is the Zen tradition.
Just the mention of the word transmission raises a question. In Zen, is there a transmission or an empowerment from the master to the student?
Yes, but it is not anymore as genuine as it used to be in the time. Not like the Bodhidharma to Huike. You know how about this first transition? Huike was the first Chinese patriarch of Zen. We are telling stories, but it will be maybe useful for you. This is connected with our awakening of the faith in Mahayana. It is not, the Buddhist scripture says that it is even more difficult to awaken the real faith than to become a Shrotapanna or any realization. Why? This is a Huineng story. And this is the Huike story now. The Bodhidharma, when he came to China, so it is believed, but nobody really knows, he comes from Tamil Nadu, from Kanchipuram. He was the Raja Kumara, the prince of the Kanchipuram king. And he was well versed in martial arts in Tamil Nadu. Still, they are very great in martial arts. And he was very versed in meditation, especially in the Pragya Paramita, in the Mahayana. He has penetrated the depths of Nagarjuna's philosophy, and he has penetrated the depths of the Vigyapti Matrata. In Zen, they put them into one, actually. So he came to China, and he was a very kind of what the hippies would like to be, with long, long hair, with a beard, with a bulging eyes, not moving, like the Mahasiddhas in India, 84 Mahasiddha. He was a Mahasiddha. So he came with his big bulging eyes, with his long hair, with his beard, and with his clothes all rags. And so he came to the Chinese emperor because he became immediately like a hit. The Chinese emperor asked him how much merit he has made. He told him no merit. Then he went out and so on, many stories. Now, as he was walking in China doing his charika, he came to Henan province, what is today the Shaolin, the famous center for martial arts. Then he, in that area, some peasant, stupid peasant, who does not understand anything, because the children were very frightened of him. He looked like the devil himself, not moving his eyes, with a long hair, long beard. So children were very afraid of him. So he went to BPada, some peasant gave poison into his food to poison him. So when he felt the effect of the poison, then he found the place to stay, which is this cave in Shaolin, you can still visit, where he spent 9 years in that cave, practicing Qigong outside of the cave and sitting 9 years facing the wall of the cave. So as he was sitting there, so the people start to respect him and came giving him offering and so on. He did not do anything, just sitting. Then this Hui Ke, he, as it was very cold in snow, so he sat there for a long, long time in the snow with his devotion. Then, in order to show his devotion to the master, he cut off his hand and presented it to the Bodhidharma, so on a tray. And when he presented it before Bodhidharma, the Bodhidharma turned on him and asked, "What do you want?" So he said, "Master, please pacify my mind." So then he told him, "Sure, you show me your mind and I will pacify it." So he sitting there, and after a long, long time, it is not mentioned how long time, he said, "Master, I cannot find your mind." So he said, "I have pacified your mind." This is how he passed to him this direct transmission. So these are stories, of course. We don't know if it happened, but this is a good story. Same like the Kashyapa is the second patriarch in India. The Buddha was holding a flower in his hand. The Kashyapa smiled and the Buddha gave him the flower. So this is a first transmission, silent transmission. Anyway, this is suitable for Chinese psychology. The Chinese, they don't like too much the metaphysical and too many symbols. Very simple, but deep. No?
But just to let you know, it's now 5:24. I wonder, inspired by Quicker, we want to practice sitting there, sitting there.
Okay.
So maybe we have time for one more question before we have a half-hour sit.
Then we do half an hour meditation. Okay. But we will do also after dinner meditation. So today we will have hopefully enough. And of course we have arranged the time wisely according to our friend, so that everybody has enough time for individual practice. It is very important. So we have to be inspired to put effort into practice, and I hope this course will inspire you. Okay, so no more question. Let us do 40 minutes meditation.